Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Football Friday podcast. Matt Catrillo, Alex Kozora, Ian Hunter here with you this week. Tyler DiGiacomo, unfortunately, can't join us this week, tied up with his duties up in Buffalo. So, we miss you, D-Jock. Hopefully, we'll get you back next week and get your thoughts recapping the 2017 NFL Draft, which was a wild one. And, guys, I must say, Philadelphia did the NFL proud. That was an amazing scene down there on the Ben Franklin Parkway. What's going on?
The only time Philadelphia has ever done anyone proud.
You know what? Hey, let me just say this thing. 0 arrests during that entire weekend. I think that's pretty impressive for 250,000 people.
Bring that up is actually an indication of how unstable.
Yeah, Catrillo, that's like going to your parents and being like, hey guys, 0 arrests in my life. Things are great.
Like, see, but see, you can't use that because I haven't been arrested in my entire life. They'd be like,
okay, that's
good.
like you going to your fiance's dad and say, don't worry, I haven't been arrested yet.
I know I'm not going to win this argument.
It was a great, to give him credit, it was an awesome atmosphere. I mean, everyone down there that was talking about it said how great it was. And I actually hope they bring it back to Philadelphia next year.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the support, and I know that you loved, Alex, the Fly Eagles Fly after every Eagles pick. I thought that was
Except for that, yeah. I hope that, I said this earlier, I wish music did not exist so they couldn't chant that. That was unbearable. That was the only blemish, I think, on the weekend.
Well, we're going to have plenty to talk about and recap from the 2017 NFL Draft, and because it was so good, we finally have brought on a guest. We've been trying for pretty much the whole season to bring guests on and figure out the best way to do it. So we finally have brought a guest on, guys. I'm very excited, and he is the man responsible for bringing me on to ProFootballSpot.com to cover the Redskins. Russell Baxter. He's going to join us in just a couple minutes here on the show, and then we're going to recap what we saw from the 2017 draft as well. So when we come back, we're going to talk to Russell Baxter coming up next, and then we'll get into the Eagles draft and Redskins draft, etc., and the Steelers draft, of course, coming up right here on the Football Friday podcast. Don't go away. Welcome back into the Football Friday podcast. Matt Catrillo, Alex Kozora, and Ian Hunter with you. Joined now by Russell Baxter. You can follow him on Twitter at Bax Football Guru. He's also the man in charge of bringing me into Pro Football Spot on the Redskins side of things. You can follow him there. Fan side and NFL Spin Zone, ProFootballGuru.com, and Sports Post Home. You name it, you will find him there in some of the best NFL coverage around. He is Russell Baxter joining us here on the Football Friday podcast. Russell, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, gentlemen. How are we doing?
We're doing fantastic, Russell, and we really enjoyed the 2017 NFL Draft. A great atmosphere down there in Philadelphia on the Ben Franklin Parkway. We know you were down there for that and covering it for everybody around the NFL. Just tell us what that atmosphere was like. We've heard so many good things about it around the national media. What was your experience like?
Well, getting close to the draft was a little difficult, so on. But the city, if you're familiar with the city of Philadelphia and the history of Philadelphia, there's a little parade they have called the Mummers. And there was like a Mummers type atmosphere there. I was born in Philadelphia. I'm very familiar with that. Haven't lived there in a long, long time. But I think one of the comments I made on Twitter was, when they panned the crowd at the draft, it reminded me of Live Aid. Now, that might be a dated reference for a lot of people, but it was a concert-like atmosphere. People just pack. I read somewhere this week, no arrests, so it was all positives. The city really geared up for it, and I've been to a lot of drafts. My days with ESPN, I've had several venues with the draft, be it the Marriott Marquis, Radio City Music Hall, Madison Square Garden. We had it in Jacob Javits Center for 1 year as well. When they took it outside of New York because of whatever Radio City Music Hall decided and put it in Chicago did a whale of a job for 2 years. And then it set a standard. And this has now become a cross between an NFL draft and an NFL experience. The NFL experience began back in Super Bowl 25 in Tampa when they were celebrating the anniversary of the Super Bowl, and it took on a life of its own year after year after year. Very fan-friendly. They did a tremendous job. And Philly's a great town. I don't say that just because I'm there, but atmosphere, food, the fans are. I wish they were a little more vocal. They're a little subdued. It was a lot of fun. It would be great if they went back there another year. See what else they could do. The fact that they had this all outdoors, they had it in, frankly, an iconic location with the steps there. I was disappointed, though, that Rafi Balboa was not selected by any.
You know what? I was too, and having been at many Eagle games at Lincoln Financial Field, Russell. Yeah, I don't think the atmosphere was quite there, but yeah, we'll pass him. We'll give him a pass. We'll give him a pass.
Well, I think the knock on Balboa was, people wanted to grab the statue, and I think they said he was different than him.
Yeah, there we go. That's all the best would say there. So let's go to the Eagles and the home team hosting this thing, Russell, and your thoughts on their draft. They get Derek Barnett to follow them all the way at 14 after the wild craziness that happened in the first round with all the quarterbacks going and the run of the other offensive players and receivers and everything like that. So your thoughts on the pick at 14 for the Eagles for Derek Barnett?
Well, you can never have enough pass rushers. And this is the team that you cut ties with Connor Barwin, who wound up with the Rams. It was a team that played much better defense. That's not saying a lot. After the previous years where, Chip Kelly, I used to kid, Linda Blair had more time of possession in the Exorcist than the Eagles did under Chip Kelly. You can't win that way. You can't keep your defense on the field the way he did. And, Jim Schwartz came in there, made the most of the personnel, moved Fletcher Cox inside with Benny Logan, who's now elsewhere now, but having that pass rush and, protecting that secondary is key. And, when you say Derek Barnett and you start talking about Reggie White, you get people excited, obviously, for Reggie White's records at the University of Tennessee. Living up to that is, people forget, in 1985, Reggie White joined the Philadelphia Eagles, added the USFL. He played a full USFL season and then played pretty much a full NFL season. So isn't it funny? We talked about 16 games. He played 30-something games that year. But the fact that you could line him up anywhere, I would put Reggie White at safety. But, defensive end, defensive tackle, absolutely relentless. That's high praise when you start talking about his records. And, for me, if the Eagles can be a little more consistent stopping the run, and Barnett needs to help with that as well, it'll be a they'll be a much better football team. But think about it. They're the only team in the NFC East last year that didn't have a winning record.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And a lot of the issues that came on defense, too, because in addition to the lack of pass rush, was at cornerback, and they tried to fill that need with Sidney Jones, taking a chance on him at 43. He's got that Achilles injury that he suffered at his pro day. I, for one, was not a fan of that. I don't think the Eagles could have afforded to take that risk with him there. But your thoughts on that pick as well, and how that can maybe help the Eagles in the future defensively?
Well, they obviously liked what they saw out of him, besides obviously the injury. These things happen constantly. I mean, they can happen in minicamp, they can happen, as we see before the draft and so on. But, you take your time, you let him develop, you don't get him on the field too soon. They've got a lot of veteran pieces on that defense who had 1 year playing under Jim Schwartz. So I think that's that's the thing that kind of gets lost with the Eagles defense. The fact that they were 3-4 for a number of years and the 3-4 was all over the field, now they go to the 4-3. It takes a little adjustment as far as assignments and different things they're doing. But, they have one of the best safety tandems in the league. Again, they're a little shaky at cornerback right now, but and I understand trepidation anytime you take an injured player, but I mean, you can never tell. Look what's happening in Dallas right now with Jalen Smith, who took the whole year off. If you think you have a good prospect and he's a guy who's on your board at a certain spot, I have found more times than not, you stick to your board. Because if your instincts are correct, you're going to get the player you want for your system.
When it came to the top 10, we had 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers taken. Were you surprised by that, especially with the 3 wide receivers?
A little bit, but it seemed to me because this was a deep defensive draft, people wanted to get their playmakers up at the top. I mean, I wasn't surprised by the running. I was actually surprised we didn't have more running backs up near the top. I felt if you looked at the free agent market this year, people didn't invest a lot of money in running backs. Eddie Lacy got a one-year deal. I mean, who was the big-ticket guy? Latavius Murray going to Minnesota? I think people waited to the draft to get their running back if they really needed one, okay? Because you get fresh legs, and if you don't take them in the first round, which of course we saw too, and that's a little bit of the Ezekiel Elliott back from the previous year. But if you can get him in the second round, you can get him cheaper for 3 years, unless you close your doors off. And frankly, you're hoping if you're Minnesota and you're Cincinnati, that Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon blow your doors off, so you're able to do some other things. But it was kind of odd in that sense. People going, it seemed like they wanted to get their playmakers early. Then the quarterback situation kind of fell the way it fell, okay, because of Kansas City moving up and Houston moving up and so on. But then it really became pretty much a defensive draft. If you were a team that needed defense, we saw many teams use their first 2, 3, 4. Green Bay used its first. In fact, Green Bay wound up with 10 selections. They used their first 4 on defense. They used their last 6 on offense, including 3 running backs. The Redskins went defensive heavy with their first 3 picks. Dallas was defensive heavy. So you saw, and you're seeing kind of a new thing going on here in terms of teams really loading up in the draft and loading up high at times on a specific position. You also see many times, I call it the Noah's Ark effect, of picking 2 guys from the same school. How many times do you see that with the first 2 picks? I mean, Washington jumps right away with Jonathan Allen and Ryan Anderson.
Yeah, Pittsburgh did it too with Cam Sutton and Josh Dobbs.
Right.
I mean, I think you know what I think happens. You go down to a school if you're a scouting system, and you find somebody who you're really looking at. And I think more times than people realize, you wind up looking at somebody else while you're there too. So since I'm in the neighborhood, I might as well grab both of them.
And Russell, speaking of teams that started off on a defensive mindset, Pittsburgh's one of them. Just real briefly, kind of touch on the team opposite side of the state. What do you think of the Steelers draft, and just more specifically T.J. Watt? Kind of mixed reviews pre-draft. Some people liked him, some people thought he was too raw. What's your take on T.J. Watt?
Yeah, I think that's exactly that's the perfect description of Watt. He didn't do much his first year playing Wisconsin. Last year, he kind of was a little bit of a sensation. Obviously, being Watt's his name, brother, of that. Certainly helped. But this is 14 to 5 years as one linebacker in the first round. So I'm not surprised by that. I want to say this is at least 5 straight years in the first round, because Artie Burns, quarterback, was picked the year before. It's something you remind. It's funny. It kind of reminds you of the Detroit Lions when they kept on drafting all those wide receivers and none of them were in him. The Steelers have had a little better success in that regard. And it's ironic. He wasn't there because Kevin Colbert is a former Lions guy. Okay, I don't know if he picked up some tips before he left, but he's been with the Steelers since 2000. But you remember Rodgers, Williams, and then Calvin Johnson came around. People were like, well, don't take him. Well, no, if you really believe that's the guy, take him. And they finally hit the run with Calvin Johnson. With the Steelers, Jarvis Jones never really turned out to be what they were hoping he could be, but they will wind up getting a Pro Bowler, Ryan Shazier, and Bud Dupree looks like a pass rusher on the rise.
Speaking with Russell Baxter, you can follow him on Twitter at BaxFootballGuru, recapping the 2017 NFL Draft. Russell was there live in Philadelphia for everything that went down. And Russell, of course, you and I cover the Redskins on ProFootballSpot.com, and we'll talk about their draft a little bit now. They get Ryan Anderson in the second round, like you had mentioned, at Alabama. So your thoughts on that pick specifically in the second round? Because I think outside linebacker for them is going to be very interesting coming into this year. They really don't have any consistencies in playmakers right now. They did bring Will Compton back as a restricted tender deal, and maybe Mason Foster could be something, but he's probably going to be more of a nickel guy. Preston Smith showed some flashes, but not quite. Still has some inconsistencies there. Do you think Ryan Anderson now coming in can be a good fit for the Redskins and maybe even make a big impact come week 1?
Well, they're going to need him to make an immediate impact because, listen, Ryan Kerrigan's an outstanding. He hasn't missed a game in 6 years he's been there. Okay, Preston Smith, perfect. He has shown flashes. Their top, probably pass rusher, Kerrigan has more sacks. I'm talking about a guy who's specifically there to rush the passers. Trent Murphy, but he's suspended the first 4 games. And they signed Junior Collette about 9-10 years ago, I think. And, he's never tried to put the field for them yet. And he's got some off-the-field issues. So they need some depth at outside linebacker as well. And the 3-4 is very significant. That's where your pass rush comes from. And this was a team, I think, that wound up with a respectable total of sacks last year. But still, the biggest bugaboo for the Redskins has been not only defense overall, that run defense has caused them a lot of
Absolutely.
problems. The fact that they can't stop the run, it's set offensive touchdowns allowed. In other words, not punt returns, not interception returns, to really show the quality of a defensive unit. Redskins have allowed at least 40 offensive touchdowns 5 years in a row. Okay?
And
Last year they were a little more balanced. They've been giving up a lot of passing touchdowns. Last year they only gave up 22 scores through the air, but they gave up 18 scores on the ground. Okay, so they lose Chris Baker in free agency. Jonathan Allen comes in. They brought in Terrell McClain. They brought in Stacey McGee. They really put an emphasis on revamping that front 7. And listen to me, their best offseason addition, I don't think I'm breaking any news here, is Zach Brown, who was a quality linebacker with the Tennessee Titans. He got hurt in his 3rd year in the opening game. He came back the 4th year with the Titans, played but wasn't the same factor. Went up to Buffalo last year, had a Pro Bowl year. A lot of people thought that the Redskins had no shot at getting him. He's going to bump either Foster or Compton from the starting lineup. But the thing about Zach Brown is you can also use him on the outside as well. So now Greg Minuski has a lot of options with that front 7. Losing Chris Baker was a big blow, but I think they made up for it by getting Jonathan Allen.
And I think just overall, when you evaluate this draft class, Russell, 10 out of all the 10 picks that the Redskins have, 6 of them went to defense, 4 of them went to the secondary, which has also seen its struggles as well. Overall, do you think this Redskins defense now has gotten better? Of course, you get Jonathan Allen in the first round, no question about that. They were very fortunate to have him fall. Overall, do you think this Redskin defense got better?
Yeah, because the one thing about the Redskins, the move to get Josh Norman, I mean, people talk about some of the ups and downs of Kirk Cousins, whose completion percentage in 2 years as starter has been off the charts good. Okay? I know there are the untimely interceptions opposed to the, of course, timely interceptions. But the fact that they are more geared for being an offensive team, okay, puts a lot more pressure on their offense to perform. Okay? They have been giving up the 5th most yards in the league, not 1 year, but 2 years in a row. Okay? I mean, their defensive numbers in terms of consistency are scarily bad. 28th in total defense 2 years in a row. 25th in pass defense 2 years in a row. 26th against the run in 2015. They got better. The 24th against the run in 2016. So you keep on putting that much pressure on your offense, you're winding up with a different version of the New Orleans Saints. That's probably the best way to put it.
Right, but they're also dealing with a quarterback situation that's not totally stable right now at this point either, as they keep bringing Kirk Cousins back on 1-year deals. So that is definitely a great point, Russell, and certainly going to be very interesting to.
By the way, do yourself a favor. Don't ever make any kind of hint that you would ever think that Kirk Cousins could get traded. I wrote a piece in March about if they traded him. I thought the Houston Texans would be a surprise thing. amazing to see the response that somebody, people thinking you're starting a rumor. But that's, you hit the nail on the head. You've got a guy who went to the Pro Bowl last year, and a two-year starter now. They've had back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in almost 20 years. He's a big part of that because the defense doesn't really pull its share of the load, and yet they still haven't got him done with a long-term deal. During the draft, there was a rumor out there that the Browns would. So that uncertainty, okay, for all the good they've done, the Redskins on defense, their offseason, let's be honest, their offseason is kind of shadowed by two things: the firing of Scott McLuhan and the fact that they can't get Kirk Cousins done on a long-term deal.
It is so fascinating, Russell, just how to follow this Redskins team, that we have the privilege of doing so, and continuing to see how this is going to unfold as the offseason goes along and as we continue to get closer to the beginning of the season. So, going to be very interesting.
Listen, you have that. Let's be honest. The Redskins are the most fascinating thing in town because there's nothing going on in the White House.
That's exactly right. Russell,
the writers in Washington are definitely entertained every day. We'll put it that way.
Well, Russell, we really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming on and joining us. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter. Great follow for all things NFL coverage at Bax Football Guru. Catch him on NFL Spin Zone, Fansided, Spot Redskins, of course, and Pro Football Spot, ProFootballGuru.com. You name it, he's there with the best NFL coverage out there. Russell, thanks so much for joining us. There he is, Russell Baxter, joining us here on the Football Friday podcast. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will continue with our draft recap, and also we're going to get into the schedules for the Eagles and Redskins and the Steelers and go through our wins and losses. I know, Alex, you hate that, but we're going to go through it anyway because I love to do it, and it would just, it's fun. Just humor me. Keep it right here on the Football Friday podcast. Back here on the Football Friday podcast, Matt Catrillo, Alex Kozora, Ian Hunter, and Tyler DiGiacomo not joining us this week. He'll be back with us next week. Just finished talking to Russell Baxter. Again, make sure you follow him on Twitter at BaxFootballGuru.com. He is just an awesome guy, and a lot of good information that we got from him during that interview, guys. I really enjoyed that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great to talk to, great insight. Yeah, and hopefully we can have him on throughout the offseason and certainly once the regular season gets kicked back up.
All right, so let's get some reaction to his thoughts, guys. Let's start with the Eagles first, and with, of course, they get Derek Barnett first overall in the at number 14 overall in the first round, and what was just an unbelievable first round. And I know we say this a lot, guys. That was the craziest draft we ever saw. I think this one tops it just because of the way the quarterbacks went early, with everybody trading up, and then the receivers that went right in a row. And then all the big defensive names that went down. Of course, Derek Barnett being one of them. Jonathan Allen going to the Redskins 3 picks later. We'll talk about that too. But first of all, guys, your thoughts on the Eagles draft. I'll start with Ian on this. Your thoughts on the Barnett pick, taking what we talked about, the Eagles taking a chance at Sidney Jones at pick number 43 overall in the second round, and other thoughts.
You know what? I think you get, for the Eagles, you got 2 first-round picks with your draft this year. Sidney Jones is hurt, but you know what? It happens. He's going to come back, though. Sidney Jones is most likely going to be a top 20 player if he had not gotten hurt. So if he comes back healthy, then you've gotten a top 20 pick in the second round. So, and the biggest issue for the Eagles this year was pass rush and cornerbacks. And they addressed that with their first 3 picks. They got some size with their cornerback. Sidney Jones has some size. Douglas out of West Virginia, their third-round pick, has some size. So the defense that they want to play, they now have the personnel on paper to do that. And so I really like their first 3 picks. And then we have Matt Collins in the 4th round. Alex, I know you love Matt Collins. An excellent special teams player, has the measurables. He may not be your number 1 wide receiver, but if you're getting a guy in the 4th round, you need him to play special teams, you need him to play it well, and maybe contribute a little bit on offense, and that's what he does.
I'll talk about this, obviously, get Alex's thoughts in just 1 sec, but overall, I'm lukewarm.
Just 1 second? I think I'm going to be waiting a little longer than that when I go make a sandwich or something.
Yeah, Alex got plenty of time to go out and grab some food and come back.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Drew.
Let me start with the Sidney Jones pick because I was not a fan of that. I would not have taken a chance on that just because it is – I get injuries happen, and I feel bad for the guy because I think he definitely was good enough to be a first-round pick. But having said that, that's a rough injury to come back from. He's probably not going to play this season. If not, he's going to come at best late November, December at best. So, but I just don't think the Eagles are in a position right now to take chances on guys. And there's another guy in here in the 5th round, Nathan Jerry from Nebraska, that they took, that is going to be doing some conversion here and from safety to linebacker. I don't really understand that either, because he was pretty productive at safety in his first couple of years at Nebraska, though I know he started his career at linebacker his freshman year. But to Sidney Jones, I mean, what if he doesn't come back from this injury? You know, the Eagles' secondary is already going to be very thin, probably even thinner than what it was last year. Then if this guy doesn't come through for you, I just can't afford spending a second-round pick on a guy that is coming back from a really tough injury. That's pretty much all I have to say there. Alex, your thoughts?
Well, obviously you're rolling the dice with an Achilles injury. I don't know what his medical is. The prognosis seems more optimistic than usual for an Achilles injury. And, of course, not to do the cop-out, but the Eagles know his situation better than we can. And I think the second round is a good risk to do it for a first-round talent. You're not taking him in the first round. So, you've established your guy in the first, and they got Rasul Douglas a pick after, so they double-dip a corner on the off chance Jones doesn't work out, it doesn't recover from the injury or whatever. Couple other things, though. Barnett, I think, is a risk, though, because, below-average athletes, they're risky in terms of how they turn out. Russell had mentioned Jarvis Jones, for example. Below-average athlete, tons of college production. It didn't translate. Now, Barnett's three-cone time was impressive, and I think one of the best things about him is his ability to flatten and dip the edge and get upfield. But anytime I think that you take a guy who didn't test well, and the combine didn't bother me because he was sick at the combine. We have to remember that. But his pro day numbers were pretty poor as well. And there was a good gap between the combine and his pro day, so I assume he was better by then. But that concerns me because anytime I think you take a below-average athlete, I think you roll that dice. A couple other quick thoughts. Rasul Douglas, I'm not in tune with the Eagles' scheme of how Schwartz is running things. If you guys are going to be a zone-heavy scheme, then I think he fits. If it's a man-heavy scheme, I don't think he does. He's got good ball skills. 8 interceptions last year in his first year starting, second year of college football, was a JUCO transfer kid. But he's stiff, he didn't run fast, and so there's a concern in man coverage. I love the Matt Collins pick in the 4th round. Special teams demon at worst and a vertical threat high character 4-year captain for the Tar Heels. And Nate Gary just isn't fast enough to play safety, so he's going to be a hybrid guy, a new age guy, which has me excited.
The one thing I'll say about Rasul Douglas is I agree, Alex. I love his ball skills. I think he's very productive. He's got a nose for the football there. And I think he's very physical. But other than that, I'm not a fan of his technique overall. I like his speed, too. I think he's got good closing speed. But his tackling, I think, is inconsistent. He's more of a thud tackler, has a tendency to arm tackle, too. So he doesn't really wrap up for my liking. And he just seems really raw technique-wise, too. Ty Pitts, most notably, I saw.
Of course he's raw because he's a one-year starter. It's just what can get fixed, what can get coached. And I think that the tight hips and the lack of long speed does not make him a good fit in a man scheme.
Right, and I know the Eagles will probably play a lot of man next year, so that is my concern there. I only give that grade a C+.
Jim Schwartz more of a cover 2 defensive coordinator? Am I correct with that?
I mean, he wants to get more aggressive, so that's why I think you're going to see more press. I mean, they did play some zone last year too.
But isn't his fundamental scheme, isn't it that Tampa covered 2?
I don't think. I mean,
legitimate question. That's why I thought that's what he did.
I'd have to double check that. I don't think he's been that, but I could be wrong. I don't think. At least I don't remember seeing that last year.
But what did the Eagles do last year? I mean, just tell me what they did last year, Controller.
I mean, they just ran a basic 4-3 scheme. They played a lot of nickel.
Yeah, I'm saying like man zone. That was what I'm talking about.
They seem to play a lot of man. It looked like they played a lot of man to me.
Okay.
I'll have to go back to the tape and find out.
You'll have to check that out.
And Schwartz has been around the block, so he can adapt his scheme to, fit the personnel needs of the Eagles. So, what he's run in the past doesn't always mean, he ran a 3-4 for a while, and he wasn't a 3-4 guy. So he's flexible.
Well, then I'll go to the Matt Collins pick real quick. I agree. Great special teams value, too. I think he's got reliable hands. I was only able to find a game of him, too. I think he's a little bit tight at the top of some routes, so I think, but again, that's one thing that's coachable. I gave it a B-. He can block really good, too. So I think that's good value the Eagles got there in the 4th round. And I talked about Nathan Jerry. Like I said, you look at his numbers with Nathan Jerry. He had 68 tackles, 5.5 that were for loss, 4 picks, 8 pass deflections last season. He had 88
That's a
tackles.
really good season, just for the record.
Say that again?
A really good season, just for the record.
Yeah, but I'm saying that this is my point. 88 tackles and 7 for loss and 5 interceptions in 2014, and 79 tackles, 4 picks, 7 pass breakups in 2015. So now you look at all that production if you're the Eagles, and now you're going to put him back at linebacker? That makes no sense to me.
Well, if he's, Alex mentioned, if he's not fast enough to play there, then he's not fast enough to play there. Now you're taking that production.
He is
he is
a little on the slow side. He ran a 4.58 40 at the combine.
So you're taking a 4.58 guy, which is still not slow. So let's not think that he's grandma out there on a
Right,
walker.
yeah, but it's not fast either. It's not great.
It's 4.58. You know many guys run 4.58? Not many. It's a fast human being. You're going to put that athlete at linebacker, and you're going to take that production with the NFL playing mostly in nickel and dime personnel now. Now essentially you're going to get him rovering around, and you're putting an athlete in the middle of your defense. Rarely, if you have that kind of athlete with that kind of production, does your defense get worse. It's a good move based on think about where the NFL is at right now. Everyone's trying to find their hybrid guy. The Eagles might have gotten him a little bit later. He has the production and he has the measurables. He's just going to be a little bit smaller, and that's okay if he's been playing primarily in nickel.
I know. I just look at the production and I see what he did at linebacker in his freshman year, which I can see, having looked at that now, why the Eagles are trying to put him back at linebacker. They are thinner there than they are at safety. Russell mentioned they obviously have one of the best safety tandems in the NFL right now. Only 32 tackles in that freshman season, 2 for a loss. So considering the numbers, that's why I really don't get it.
Yeah, okay. We're getting way too focused on numbers than we are about traits and projection. That's what the NFL is. It's not about what you did. Who was it? Colt Brennan, the Hawaii quarterback. If we were basing success off of numbers,
he would have
been the first overall pick, or Tommy Chang, or any Hawaii quarterback. Take your pick. It's about projection, and Gary does his best work close to the line of scrimmage, and he was very much being viewed across the board as that hybrid guy. Very few teams, I think, looked at him as a safety. So he's a guy that's going to do his best physical downhill, filling the alley, filling the B gap against the run. So his production was solid, sure, but the projection isn't there. I think he could be a really good fit as that linebacker hybrid. That is the way the NFL is going. You look at Daniel Sorensen in Kansas City is my favorite example to talk about. Tarp out in San Francisco. David Bruton's doing it for Denver. He tried to do it in Washington. I'm not sure he had injuries and all that. But, that's the way the NFL is going. So I think at worst you're getting a hair-on-fire special teamer who's going to be successful for sure. Because he has that linebacker mentality. He knows how to get off blocks and use his hands and stay clean, which is critical for the coverage unit. But as a safety, no, he just isn't going to fit there. But I think it's a good pick still.
I think from the special team standpoint, I do like that as well. But I don't know. I just don't see it right now. But again, I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, I have more faith in Joe Douglas than anybody.
I have with the Eagles draft is I don't know if they added enough for Carson Wentz. I know they signed a couple of guys in free agency, but those in aspect are just 1-year deals.
In terms of this draft class, I would agree with that.
Well, the question is it's got to be a running back, though. It's still a running back. Who is their running back? It's like 3 guys in the mix right now.
Yeah, that is the other issue with this. However, I do think with a guy like Donnell Pumphrey, this is Darren Sproles' last season. So Donnell Pumphrey, though, he is much smaller, and that does concern me a lot. He's only 5'8", 176. At least Darren Sproles had some bulk in his upper body.
Darren Sproles was like 200 pounds.
Yeah, they're 2 different guys.
Again,
they're 2 different guys.
But what I'm saying is, yes, Pumphrey has to bulk up and has to get a little bit bigger, and having that right now worries me. But what I'm saying is you can still plug him in and do some of the similar things, if not the same things that you have been doing with Sproles the last couple of seasons, and you can even try him out at special teams as well. So what I'm saying is the Eagles have that for the future, but yes, they don't have that go-to 20, 30 carry running back. Maybe that could be the case in bringing in kid from Wisconsin. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Corey Clement,
as an undrafted rookie free agent. So maybe there's something there, but the Eagles really do need to address something. They still have guys like D'Angelo Williams and LeGarrette Blount out there. I don't know if they go after them, but I do like Pumphrey, though, a lot. I think his tape is really just blows me away. I think he's got unbelievable vision, tremendous acceleration, obviously. And
you're talking a lot about late end of Eagles draft right now.
Well, the reason why I do that is because a lot of these picks that we've seen over the last couple of years for the Eagles, these late round picks, have been starting and have been a vocal point in this team. I mean, you look at Jalen Mills last year; he was a 7th round pick, and he's going to be starting this year.
Here's the thing. Go ahead, Ian.
I would say Jalen Mills probably would have been a higher pick, but he had a lot of off-the-field problems. That was it.
Right, but what I'm saying, still, he's one of many examples that the Eagles have used in the last couple of seasons where they've been late-round draft picks, but yet, and they're coming in and making somewhat of an impact, I should say.
Yeah.
Two things on Pumphrey, because everybody and their mother is comparing him to Darren Sproles. He's not, for two reasons. One is the size. I forget what Sproles was. I didn't pull it up, but he was a lot bigger. He was almost 200 pounds, I think, coming out of
Yeah, he was
Kansas
200
State.
pounds coming out of Kansas State.
Okay. Yeah, Pumphrey was 176 at the combine, and I know, Katrina, you said, well, just bulk up. He already did that. That was the bulked up version. He came into the Senior Bowl, I looked it up, at 169 pounds.
Oh,
and
well, that's
see
very
him there
concerning,
when they strip those guys down. Obviously, they're in their underwear for the weigh it's on a stage. Kind of a weird thing. But he's just, there's no muscle to him. So this 176 is bulked up for him, and that's a concern. There's going to be a ceiling of how much more he can add, what his frame is just physically able to support, and I think he's close to his limit. So size-wise, they're different. Two, no return value. He didn't do any kicks or punts at San Diego State. Sproles, that's what he's known for originally, was being a dynamic return guy. Now, could Pumphrey be that guy? Possibly, but there isn't anything to really indicate that outside of maybe some pro day workouts. So I don't think he's Sproles at all. I think that's an easy, lazy comparison most in the big media is making just because of their size and their little scat back, ability.
Well, just even from an offensive standpoint, too, I think there's a lot of things you can use him that you used to do with Darren Sproles. But you mentioned that size thing, Alex. I didn't know. That's pretty concerning. The fact that was a bulked
Sproles
up.
doesn't go down on first contact. Pumphrey went down first contact time and time again because he is such a light, thin guy. So ability to break tackles and win in the open space. Pumphrey's got good vision. You're right on that. He's got acceleration. He was obviously, go back to production, NCAA leading all in rushing yards. But I'm just worried about his ability to run through contact. And can you give you anything between the tackles? Not to bring this back to Pittsburgh, but Steeler fans found this out pretty quick with Dre Archer, a guy that could not run between the tackles.
That's a great point, though.
He had legit speed. Humphrey's average in terms of the way he timed, I think. When he ran like 4.48 at 176, pretty average overall, without the return ability. And Archer had that on his resume. So, there's a big concern there. I don't think it's going to work out.
And then lastly, guys, real briefly, Sheldon Gibson, the Eagles also get in the 5th round. 4.5, 40 time. Obviously, special teams value there. Has been proven a kick returner. Clearly a barn burner as far as being able to be that vertical threat down the field. He was obviously productive in that way. But to me, that's the only thing I really see in him. Other than that, I really don't see him being able to get much separation on any other inside routes besides all vertical routes. I don't know if you got a chance to look at the tape, Alex. Do you see that same thing? Am I seeing things here?
We did do a report on Gibson. I did write it up. He's a lot faster than he timed. He ran 4.5 flat, like you said, at the combine. He ran, I think, a 4.38 at his pro day, and I believe the latter is more indicative of the actual speed that he has. This kid's a burner. This kid's one of the best vertical threats of any receiver in this class. Not only, of course, his speed, but his ability to stack cornerbacks, get on top of that, not just hip-to-hip relationship, his ability to contest and actually be more physical than I thought downfield on those 50-50 jump balls. So this is another reason to not like the Pumphrey pick, because Gibson can be your return guy. So there goes Pumphrey's ability to do anything there.
Not his value.
Right. Gibson didn't do a lot of anything else in terms of his route tree at West Virginia, so it's not a surprise to see that he's pretty raw with any sort of other breaking routes. He was basically a bubble screen / vertical guy, but I think there is a trait there to translate. The thing with Gibson, though, he's got to be more consistent. He's got to be more detail-oriented, working back to the football and underneath breaking routes, staying in the cone of vision in scramble drills, not just sitting down in man coverage, running away from defenders, finding open grass. He's very much feast or famine, which is okay to do in the 4th round as a flyer kind of pick. But detail, that's going to be the key for Sheldon Gibson.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And you mentioned that doesn't bode well for me as far as giving Carson Wentz any, good, reliable weapons. But we'll see how it shakes out in the preseason.
This team needed speed.
And
weapon. They needed speed. They needed a vertical threat to stretch defenses vertically. And I think Hollins, who isn't fast but is a deep threat, and Gibson, who's fast and a deep threat, will give Wentz that opportunity. And then you have Jeffrey and the others.
And Torrey Smith and the like. And I do agree. I like the speed that they got, and they definitely and clearly needed it. But I'm just saying there's a lot more rawness to some of these guys that the Eagles are really going to have to work out and to me really aren't going to have a lot of time to do come week 1. But I guess we'll see how that plays out when we get to the beginning of the season. So let's go to the Steelers pick next, guys, and we'll start with T.J. Watt. I know, Alex, you've had some mixed reactions overall to what the Steelers did in this draft, but let me start with T.J. Watt, and we'll kind of go from there.
Are you saying that I had mixed reactions, or I heard mixed
No,
reactions?
I thought you've had mixed reactions. I know that of some, not T.J. Watt himself. I'm talking about the draft class overall.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be things you like, things you don't like. I love the T.J. Watt pick, though. I think the team knocked it out of the park, and it's not a surprise at all to see he was the guy. We did all of our pre-draft studies and history kind of, precedent, Kevin Colbert, we did on Steelers Depot. Watt was a name I kept coming back to. And, had we known, we knew at his pro day that Tomlin, Colbert, Joey Porter were there. Then we found out after the fact, after the pick, that Keith Butler was there too. So they sent the entire house to Wisconsin's pro day. But to the player, I'm excited. We had the conversation with Russell, and I did say that some people think that he's raw. I don't think he's raw. I think he's inexperienced. I sided with what Tomlin said is because although he was just a one-year starter at the boundary linebacker for Wisconsin, he was productive. He shows better hand usage than a guy where he's at should be, and he's able to win in multiple ways. He played on his feet. He dropped in the coverage. He rerouted guys in his spot drops. I look at this guy. I think he's been playing linebacker for 3 years. He only did it for 1 as a starter. So I'm excited about his upside. And it was, of course, a need for the Steelers, so I think it kind of checked every single box.
Ian, did you have any more thoughts to add with T.J. Watt?
I remember watching T.J. Watt, and I watched a little bit of him, and then when all the interest was really coming down towards the back half, or the early part of last week, I put 5 games on in rapid succession. Just watched five games. And after that 5 games, I was having a hard time finding anything I didn't like. It's usually within like a game, you're like, okay, I'm seeing this, but I don't like this. I had a hard time finding something I didn't like. And, his ability to rush, his ability to use his hands, showed some ability to bull rush. He's going to get better at that. And there's nothing that you see that you realize that he's not going to get better at. And I think from where in terms of who was still on the board at that time and factoring in need, I thought it was a pick that was right in line with where he should have been taken, and it fit a need for Pittsburgh. Alex said slam dunk pick. I'm actually surprised that he fell as far as he did. I thought there was a chance he could go as high as 20 and well before Pittsburgh.
I obviously was not surprised by the pick. I think it'll be a good fit for the Steelers. I think that'll definitely work out really well for them. And let's go now to a little bit later on in the draft, which I for one, guys, think is easily the best story of this entire draft is James Conner being drafted late in the 3rd round. I went berserk as soon as I saw the pick come through. I think that is such a cool story, and knowing all that he's been through and coming back and playing for Pitt last year, now he gets to play for the hometown Steelers. Yeah, I'm going to start with you. I mean, this is just an amazing story, and because the Steelers rather obviously haven't brought back D'Angelo Williams, this kid's going to have a chance to do something here a little bit behind Le'Veon Bell.
No, he really is, and James Conner reminds me a lot of Le'Veon Bell. The Le'Veon Bell coming out of college, not Le'Veon Bell now. Le'Veon coming out of college was kind of a similar player. I think he was a better player, but he was a similar player to James Conner. I really like the pick. If you can get James Conner back to 2014 James Conner when he was in great shape before the injury and before cancer, then you're going to get a really great football player. And let's be honest, last year he was in shape, but coming back after cancer, it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot to rebound after that. So he's only going to get better as well. He's going to get his speed back. He's going to get more power. He's going to get stronger. It's a high upside guy, and I know a lot of people were mad that he didn't take him like the 5th round or whatever. If he's your guy, he's your guy. No one's going to know this kid better than Pittsburgh. He was in their building for the last 3 years. So they know him. They know what he can bring to the table. He's an upside guy, but he's still a high-class guy. Bringing a solid dude in your running back room.
Yeah, he's such a tough kid, Ian, and I think he is going to be a good fit with Pittsburgh. And when you just look at this overall, I mean, again, he's going to have a real good chance to do something here. And I was really surprised that he did go that high. I was expecting him to be day 3, maybe 4th round at best. So I'll go to you, Alex. Were you surprised that the Steelers got him that high, and do you like the pick and think that could be a good fit too?
I agree with a lot of what Ian said, and I think, the Steelers draft class very much had a theme, and the theme was high character, low risk guys off the field. And the Steelers have gone through Martavis Bryant, Le'Veon Bell. You guys know the names about guys that have had problems. None of the guys the Steelers drafted are people you have to worry about or ever going to get a phone call 2 in the morning about, from your security guy about, the cops were called, there was an arrest or whatever, and Connor, of course, fits that bill as well as anybody in this class. And I agree with Ian about the story and everyone's talked about it and how great it is and how happy I am on a personal level to see James Conner get to stay in Pittsburgh and play for the Steelers. 2 things, though. We have to separate, Conner the story, which is fantastic, and you root for it with everything you got, with Conner the prospect, and focus on what he brings to the team. And while I don't think he's a plotter in the way that Andre Williams was coming out of Boston College and flamed out with the Giants, his speed, of course, is never going to be great. He's never going to be a super explosive guy. I do like his vision. I do like his change of direction ability. But most of all, I'm a little worried about that lack of power because he's 6'1", and so he's going to run naturally tall with a higher pad level, and it got him into trouble at Pitt where guys can get under him because the dude's pretty tall. Le'Veon Bell, had some similar stuff coming out of college, some similar concerns. So that's my concern because most people think of Conner and power, and I worry about that pad level. Is he going to get to show that consistently? So that's the first thing. The other thing's a sidebar. I was reminded today of how off the mark I was on my Le'Veon Bell evaluation. So take what I say about Conner maybe with a grain of salt. I pulled up the article. I'll if you don't mind, I'll read a real quick.
I am curious about this.
Of what I wrote grading Le'Veon Bell immediately after the 2013 draft. I said he's too much of an east-west runner for a back of his size, dancing in the hole too much. He rarely gets his shoulders square and gets momentum going downhill. There are times when he tries too hard to bounce it, when he should cut upfield, take what he can get. He isn't a home run threat either, lacking a second year and only a marginal burst who, again, hurts himself by failing to run downhill. It's Juan Pierre thinking he's Adam Dunn. That was being cute with that, apparently. It's safe to assume the Steelers are drafting him to be a feature back, but he'll fall short of that mark. At best, he's Jonathan Dwyer, and like him, also has his fair share of weight concerns. The Steelers added no new dynamic and only a little bit of talent with this pick, and
man.
I graded it with a D. So
oh my goodness!
If you don't like what I have to say about James Conner, look to my evaluation of Le'Veon Bell. Maybe I'm
that
over
is
2 of these guys.
hysterical.
Alex wasn't the only one who said that, though. There were a lot of people, including me. I wanted Eddie Lacy badly at that pick.
A lot of people did, yeah.
I thought that Eddie Lacy was a guy who could be a Jerome Bettis type with his feet and his power, the whole 9 yards. And look who's had the weight problems. And
that's very true. That's another great point.
So, we were all wrong. And I've never been so happy to say I was really, really wrong.
And that was the same way for me with the Eagles drafting Carson Wentz last year, and so far I've been proven wrong with that too because I tore that pick to shreds.
No, stop. You still hate Carson Wentz.
I don't hate Carson Wentz.
Every week, whenever he had half a bad game, Catrillo was over here talking about how you didn't like him coming out of the draft. We can go through every show if you want, Catrillo, and I will pick up every instance that you do it.
Right, I can be still critical of certain players on this football team, and when he's the quarterback, you're going to get most of the criticism. It's just the way it is. This is the nature of it. I still think he's a good quarterback.
You are guilty, Catrillo.
All right, let's move. All right, let's move on to the greatest name I think of the draft as well, Juju Smith-Schuster, second-round pick for the Steelers. Obviously, I think it's a really solid pick for them too, and a smart pick because you still don't know what the future holds for Martavis Bryant. So, Ian, I'm going to start with you on this. What do you like about this Schuster kid?
Well, not only do you not know what you're getting out of Martavis, but, also Sammy Coates. You don't know where he's going to be at. Is he going to be able to be a wide receiver for you? If not, then he may or may not make the team coming out of camp this year. We don't know. So, it was I think, more of a neat pick than people really gave it credit for, and I like Juju a lot. I told people that called me asking me who this guy was. I'm like, he's cut from the same cloth as Hines Ward. Again, not that I'm saying he's going to be Hines Ward, but he's a guy whenever he's a tough guy at the point of the catch. He's going to get the catch. He's not afraid to wrestle with you a little bit. You can see there's a clip of him giving a nasty stiff arm to a defensive back from Utah, which was that Brian Allen, by the way, that he stiff armed?
No, I don't think it was Brian Allen.
Okay, well, that's good. But it was a nasty stiff arm, and I remember watching it and going, oh, man, this guy's a football player. And, I think he tested fine. Alex said he's probably going to play in the slot, and I would agree. So you're putting a guy like that in the slot. You still have Eli Rogers, who's still a good player. You have Antonio Brown. You have Martavis Bryant, Ladarius Green, Le'Veon Bell. So you're adding Juju in that mix. And I have a question for NFL defenses. Who do you cover? Who do you stop? Because that's a lot of talent on one field, and there's only 11 guys, and they can't all guard the wide receivers. Someone's going to have to try to rush Ben Roethlisberger. Someone's going to have to try and stop Le'Veon Bell. It's a matchup nightmare.
Not only that, too, all of your cornerbacks and defensive backs better be ready to run because that's just more speed that's added to that Steelers receiving core that's already very dangerous, Ian, as you mentioned.
He's not afraid to punch you right in the mouth either, so he brings a bit of an attitude to the slot, and I like that.
Alex, what are your thoughts on Juju?
I knew Ian would like that because anytime a receiver acts like an offensive lineman, Ian's like, "Well, you're the first overall pick in my draft. You're my new chance."
Our fantasy draft this year? Oh yeah. Juju #1.
Yeah. No, I like the pick. I wasn't surprised by a position. I had a receiver going in the second round of my last mock draft. I was pretty shocked by the name, and I think Smith-Schuster was as well because he said the only time he talked to the Steelers was at the Combine for the 15-minute interview. That was it. There was no communication afterwards. The Steelers haven't committed to where he's going to play, but like Ian hinted at, I believe it's going to be in the slot. And honestly, I believe he could be a day one starter in the slot. I think he's going to fit there for a couple reasons. One, if you assume Martavis Bryant's on the straight and narrow, he's your Z receiver. AB, of course, is your X. And second-round picks don't sit anymore. So he's going to get on the field. The only place left is the slot. Two, the Steelers, when they draft Z-type receivers, they go for super speed and height and vertical ability. Smith-Schuster didn't really test like that, so I don't think they view him as that Z-type receiver. And three, I think he has a skill set to do it. He's bigger than your typical slot receiver, but, I talked about T.J. Watt being advanced for his age. I think Smith-Schuster's in the same category and beyond that. He played 3 years of football, but he's 20 years old, and he acts like a guy that's been in the league for 5 years. He's got a great job of being able to get himself open, find grass, make tough catches over the middle, stick to his quarterback in scramble drills. He's a very detail-oriented guy for a 20-year-old kid, and that has me excited. So he's tough, he's got good hands, he can contest, he's a good blocker. Again, good football IQ, all those traits that I look for in the slot. So I'm excited about this pick. He's 20 years old. There's a lot of growth there. He's high character, willing to put his hand in the pile. He's already embraced Pittsburgh, so that's cool to see. I think they got a good one, Matt.
Yeah, I really do think so, too. Now, I'm just curious to ask you this quick question, Alex, and then we'll get to the rest of what we saw in the first round on Thursday night. So let's just say Martavis Bryant, worst case scenario, he's not on the field week 1. And you mentioned you probably see Juju Smith-Schuster in the slot. So where does that leave Eli Rogers in that instance, and who do you see filling as that number 2 receiver? I guess that would be Sammy Coates, or how do you think that shapes itself out?
If you're asking me, yeah, Todd Haley's offense, though, receivers have to play everywhere, so no one gets locked into one spot. AB's playing the slot a lot, even Martavis Bryant can move from the slot. So, I think Smith-Schuster can play the Z, maybe the X a little bit as well, and of course in the slot. But, Bryant isn't around. You could have Smith-Schuster possibly be as the Z, but I think Sammy Coates, if he has a good camp, showed when he was healthy last year that he can be that Z receiver. So they have options. It could be Coates at the Z, AB as the X, Smith-Schuster in the slot. There's a couple ways you can go about it. It's a good problem to have, though, is what I'll say.
Well, that I would definitely agree. Again, I talk about the speed that the Steelers are going to have. That is going to be really dangerous to stop next year. So let's quickly now, guys, go over to the Redskins side of things and kind of wrap up our thoughts there.
We're not going to bring up the fact they drafted a long snapper? We went through 18 of the Eagles draft picks. We're not going to bring up the fact that the Steelers drafted a long snapper.
Sure. Well, what do you like about the long snapper, Ian?
Okay, it's not about the fact I like that they drafted a long snapper. It's that they drafted a friggin' long snapper.
You don't like it?
Okay, so driving down to a concert, I'm driving, and Virginia has my phone. She's checking everything for me. What a partner,
Absolutely.
And so she goes, okay, the Steelers drafted this guy, and she gives me this name, and she goes, LS. LS? What? And I'm like, Mitch, she couldn't mean long snapper. There's no way. And I was like, are you sure it said LS? She goes, yeah, it says LS. I'm like, you can't be reading that right. I didn't believe her. And I looked at the pick. I'm like, well, son of a gun, they drafted a friggin' long snapper. So, yeah, the Steelers drafted a long snapper, guys. Yippee-ki-yay.
Alex, do you have any reaction to that?
Well, I thought he was going to get drafted. I thought he was the best long snapper in this class.
So that's a plus.
And, yeah, I guess. When he was at the Senior Bowl, and they like his length, they like his size. If he makes a team and he's a 10-year guy, then it really does work out. But, it's such a risk-reward kind of thing. He's going to either make the team and be your starter, or he's not going to make it at all. He's going to go back out in free agency, and you might lose him instantly. So I just wonder if there's something up with Greg Warren. Is he hurt? Is he retiring? Who knows what's going on there? Because it's not like there's an open competition there. Greg Warren was expected to be the guy. So, I was not very crazy about it. And I love special teams. You know me, I love special teams. And
yes,
you like special teams as much as I like guards. Let's be honest.
Exactly. So, tough sell for me.
All right, so I can just fulfill this obligation here. Any other Steeler draft picks that stood out to you guys? I'll start Levy and go here since he brought this up.
A 6'3" quarterback who's got some upside control. Didn't talk about him. Oh, jeez.
I like Brian Allen.
I do. I'm finding. There's not a whole lot of cut-ups on him, but with games you watch, you have to be intrigued by it. And the hope is that after a year of seasoning, you might have something there.
All right. I think we're good.
Now I'm done.
Okay, there we go. All right.
All out.
Let's quickly finish our thoughts on the Redskins. Brian Anderson, Jonathan Allen, final thoughts on those two picks and anything else that stood out to you guys? Let's start with Alex.
I'm not crazy about Anderson as an edge guy. I'd almost rather move him inside because he does use his hands well. He does have good strengths. I just think he's very much of an athlete. He's going to struggle to win the edge. Also, if you say bad things about Ryan Anderson, he will hunt you down and he will call you out for it. So I'm fully expecting Ryan Anderson to get word of this. John Ledyard, our buddy on Twitter, got called out by Anderson, and Anderson has done that many times to people on Twitter. So be careful. Word of caution for you, Cucciolo. Although be true with what you say. Don't say things because of potential criticism. But the Allen pick, he fell into the laps, and it's been a positional need because the run defense was so poor. I do worry about longevity with him with that shoulder. Who else did they take? P-Ron, I like. He was a guy I might have rather had than Connor from Pittsburgh in the third round. Thought Monte Nicholson was a little bit higher than I expected. Sprinkle's a big blocking tight end. He's such a terrible athlete, even though he caught passes at Arkansas. Who just has the weirdest off-the-field story ever. I don't know if you guys know about Jerry Sprinkles.
What did he get?
He was at the Belt Bowl, and they were shopping, and he shoplifted $500 worth of items from the Belt Bowl store, which is weird because you get a $500 Belt Bowl gift card to shop with, and so instead of using that, he shoplifted instead. And I think he got suspended for the bowl game. I forget what happened there. So that's a weird situation. But he's a good blocker. I think he might have been the best blocking tight end in this draft. So there's something for you.
And that's what Jay Gruden, in his press comments after the pick, loved about Jeremy Sprinkle, and that's why they're bringing him in, because he says he wants more blocking tight ends because they have the good receiver.
Clarify that. I thought he loved the shoplifting. He was like,
yeah, I'm sure he liked that.
He knows what he wants, and he will take it. We need guys like
that. We are talking about the Redskins here, so you never know.
That's what I was clarifying.
That's what Al Davis would say. He stole something. We like that. We're bringing him in.
As long as he ran 4.3, he still has to run 4.3.
Only because I found when I first saw the pick, I found it curious because of the current tight end situation. But let's face it, though, guys like Niles Paul and Jordan Reed obviously haven't been able to stay healthy. So this kid can catch too, on tape. So I don't think you totally can shut him out from having any of that possibility.
He can catch, he just can't get open. You have to design things for him to get open with.
That I do agree with, yeah. That I definitely agree with there.
Here's the thing that kind of kills me about the Ryan Anderson pick. I remember talking to Azora about this. I see Ryan Anderson, I see Jarvis Jones. A guy who's good against the run, but what is his true upside? What is he really going to be able to do for you other than be a guy who tries really hard and maybe makes a couple of nice run defense plays a game, but he's not going to offer you much in terms of a pass rush. There were other guys there. I mean, you had Derek Rivers that was still there. Tyus Bowser was still there. Who's the guy from Ohio? Colts.
Terrell Basham.
Basham was there too. So they had three other guys who I thought were significantly more productive and better upside players than Ryan Anderson. He kind of is who he is. And yeah, he made some splash plays at Alabama, but with all that talent around him, I would hope someone would make splash plays. He was very much the second fiddle to Tim Williams there. So I just don't know what true upside he's going to bring to that team. Is he an upgrade at any position? I understand Trent Murphy is suspended, but is Ryan Anderson a guy who's better than Trent Murphy? I would probably say no.
Well, I guess I'm in the minority. I like the pick. I'm not saying that so he doesn't attack me on Twitter. I really do think it's a good pick, and I think it will be a good fit because you mentioned having talent around him. You have Ryan Kerrigan on the one side, and you bring in Jonathan Allen, though I know I am a little bit concerned about the shoulder, but I still think it was the right pick at the time for the Redskins. You have Zach Brown coming into the mix as well, though I know he's had his injury concerns. So I think it can be a good pick. I think he's got a pretty quick first step. I think he uses his hands well overall. He's got a high motor too and really hustles, and he made a lot of nice tackles coming from the weak side, so he never gives up on the play. I think he got overall pretty consistent pressure on the quarterback, and he forced a lot of early and errant throws. And I think he's a smart player too. I think he can replays quickly and adapt to that on the fly. I though would like to see him get faster. Obviously, he had a 4.78 40 time at the combine. So, but as I talked about with Russell, outside the linebacking core in general, but especially an outside linebacker, that's as inconsistent as it gets right now. Pretty much, you have Ryan Kerrigan, then you have nobody else making plays right now. And I think this guy can be a playmaker, especially with some of these guys, with a guy like Kerrigan coming from the opposite side. And you don't know about the future of well, Compton only brought him in a one-year deal, so you don't really know about that. We'll see how Zach Brown is able to come in and fix it. Mason Foster, too, really was just a nickel guy, but he's going to be competing for that starting spot. So I think Anderson is in a good position here where he can actually come in and make an impact come week one.
Was all that information on Ryan Anderson sent to you by Ryan Anderson?
No, that all comes from up here.
Up there.
That might be
from
worse.
from the vision.
Yeah, that might be worse. Real quick, the one pick I really like, your sleeper late, Robert Davis from Georgia State. A vertical guy. I think at Georgia State still runs a triple option, but he just had maybe the best combine workout of anybody in Indy. 6'2", 220. They ran like the 4.4, jumped 41 inches, 11 something in his broad. Just athletically off the charts, and that's a really good flyer to take at big 209.
Yeah, I think so too, especially because you lose Deshaun Jackson in free agency to Tampa Bay, guy that almost had a 1,000-yard season last year too. I think that's a very interesting pick as well. So those are kind of my standouts there as far as the Redskins class goes. We only have a couple minutes left, guys, so overall, some quick thoughts from what we saw in the first round. I think, number one, the two things that pop up to me is you see the Kansas City Chiefs trade up for Patrick Mahomes to number 10. They trade up 15 picks to do so. I thought that was way much of a reach there. And then, of course, the Bears. What a job by John Lynch, first of all, the 49ers. You talk about, I don't know about beginner's luck or just doing an outstanding job for his first time at this as GM. But the way he was able to get the Bears to trade up one pick and give all that up to take a guy like Mitch Trubisky, when you already brought in Mike Lennon, all I have to say is, and I tweeted this out, Mike Lennon loses again.
I don't think the Bears pick was as bad as people make it out to be. If Trubisky is a franchise quarterback and has the success the Bears think he will, it's a great pick, and no one will care or remember what the Bears gave the trade up. It's like Carson Wentz. Does anyone care about what they traded up to get Carson Wentz? No, because the pick probably worked out. So, I don't know if it's going to work out or not. If it doesn't, then goodbye John Fox. Probably going to be gone anyway. Goodbye Ryan Pace. But I don't think it's as bad as people think. If that's your guy, get your guy, and trade up to get it, whatever you got to do.
But here's the thing, though. Go ahead, Ian.
The only issue I had with the Bears draft is that with their first two picks, they did get guys who could help them play this year. Mitch Trubisky is going to be at least a year away, at least. Their number two is Adam Shaheen, who again had crazy measurables at tight end, but he plays at the Division II level and is as raw as they come. So he's going to take probably at least a year or so of seasoning before he's ready to make a legitimate impact at this level. So the Bears were a team who I thought had added some nice pieces. They looked like they were at least getting better last year, and now they haven't done really anything to help.
But the Bears weren't going to compete this year anyway. I think pretty much everybody knew that. So So,
that's my personal thoughts. I mean,
taking
they're
the long-term
high upside guys. So I get it.
Though you
But
are though you are correct about that, or Alex, that the Bears obviously are not going to compete this year, and they're far from doing so because they may have another head coaching change on the horizon again. However, Ian mentioned my point, and is that all of these quarterbacks, to me, are a year away. They need a year of that grooming, and I get the way the market is now for drafting quarterbacks. Everything's going to be reach. Everything's going to be higher than what maybe we might project them as. But to me, if you know you're going to be sitting a guy for you look at these quarterbacks and you know that he's not ready to play week 1 of that upcoming season, then to me you can't afford to trade up, especially as far as the Chiefs did and gave up that much for a guy that you know that you need to groom and you know that needs a lot of work. That to me is what scares me about the Chiefs doing that, especially when you have a quarterback in Alex Smith in their case that are still in a win now mode, and they're in a very competitive division. You look on the Bears side of things, yeah, they're not going to be able to compete, but at the same time, if you know this guy is a year away from that needs that groom time, you still can't give up all that they did, even though they only moved up one spot to get a prospect like that. To me, you just can't function that way as an NFL franchise.
Well, I mean, let's talk about this then. The Kansas City Chiefs did kind of the same thing, except they were a playoff team this year, so they traded for Pat Mahomes, and they picked the defensive end out of Villanova, who I liked, and I can't pronounce his last name, but he's another guy that is a high upside guy who's probably not going to help you this year. So, and if you're Kansas City, so you trade up for Pat Mahomes, you take a guy with a lot of high upside, but he needs a ton of work, and you lose Don Terry Poe. So the Kansas City Chiefs did get better this offseason.
I agree. And
yeah,
again,
the Chiefs were a little weirder because you're right, they are in more of a win now mode. Now they did go out and add Benny Logan, replace Bo and nose tackle, so they did have something there. But Catrillo, you cut out a little bit, but I think I picked up most of your point was that you talking about you can't function as an NFL team by trading these picks, mortgaging your future, and all that. You can't function as an NFL franchise without a franchise quarterback. I think that's what every team recognizes and what every team is trying to do. The Chiefs are doing it for the long term, and the Bears maybe by next year. So that's the reality is you need to get your guy, and it might cost a lot to get him, but it's going to cost yourself even more if you don't find him, if you don't have one.
Right, and I get that. You definitely need a quarterback, but if these guys, to me, if I'm looking at a guy and I know he's a franchise quarterback right away, week 1, yes, you do what the Chiefs did, you do what the Bears did, you trade up and get your guy. But if you look at this guy and say, I don't know if I see a first-round pick in him, I don't know, he might need some grooming, I don't know if I can see him on the field week 1 or even at all this upcoming season, then I can't trade up for him because there's other needs that I need, obviously. Why does he have to
start right away? Why can't you say, because any quarterback that gets to sit for years in a better place for, sometimes these guys should start out of necessity. Carson Wentz was supposed to be the third string all year long. The Eagles made that move. So,
and I wasn't for that move either.
I know you weren't, but just because he's not starting week 1 does not mean he's not a franchise quarterback. There's a disconnect.
Oh, I mean,
why does he have to start week 1 for you to draft him?
Because that's my guy going forward. Because he proved himself that way to be. I mean, I think Andrew Luck is a perfect example of this. Here's a guy that was productive in college. He showed all the mechanics.
But listen, Andrew Lucks don't grow on trees.
Right. If you're looking for Andrew Luck,
for every Andrew Luck, there is. Give me a number 1 who didn't work. Let's say RG. Jamarcus Russell. So for every Andrew Luck, there are 5 more Jamarcus Russells. So and teams have found success. What reason I don't like trading up is teams more and more have been finding success getting guys, building teams, and then getting quarterbacks later. That's something I would be more in favor of. But you have to have a quarterback. So I didn't have a problem with the Bears trading up to get what they thought to be their guy. I just didn't like how they didn't get any guys to help them this year. That's a small gripe. If next year Adam Shaheen and Mitch Trubisky turn out to be Pro Bowl players and are long-term stays at their position and play at their position at a high level for a long time, it doesn't matter. I just don't like it now. That doesn't mean my opinion can't change in about 4 or 5 months.
See, and that's the plan you can take. If you're in a position where, yes, you need a quarterback, and yes, that's the way you ultimately survive and win championships in this league. But if you look at a draft and you don't think any of these guys can wow you that on tape, or you know they need grooming, then you take where you are in the draft and you get those pieces first, then you can wait on and get that guy later.
Listen, Matt, I'm going to tell you something that.
Because either way, you're going to have to build it. You have to find a quarterback and get pieces around him. So ultimately, what's the way to do it?
Stop.
There's no first or second to do it.
I'm going to tell you something that Art Rooney just said a few days ago, and it makes a lot of sense, and I think we have to be reminded of it every single year. Too many teams try to come in and win the draft, when the point of the draft is to get better so you can win a Lombardi Trophy. That's the point. Don't try to win the draft. Try to get players to win your games, and you can think about that long term as well.
Catrillo, you have the weirdest thoughts on quarterbacks I think I've ever heard from anybody in my entire life. Ever. And it's just going back to your philosophy on what is a franchise quarterback, which I don't even remember what you said, but it was dumb, and I tried to throw it out of my mind. If you're waiting on a quarterback to be the day one starter for your team, you're waiting until you have the number one overall pick, and you don't always have that luxury, because very rarely do you get a quarterback that's a number one, day one starter, an Andrew Luck type. It's once every 5 years, 6 years or so. So, it's okay to let a quarterback sit. Aaron Rodgers sat. Ben Roethlisberger was supposed to sit. That's how a lot of these end up working, and it's okay to take a year if you have that luxury to do so, because it's such a difficult position to play.
Right,
you can still like a guy and say he needs to sit for a year, or he can sit for a year.
But when you look in the Packers' case and the Steelers' case, if I remember correctly, I don't think neither the Packers or the Steelers traded up for those guys. Am I correct about that?
No, but they still took a quarterback. So who cares if you're trading? You're getting your guy. What does it matter? Your philosophy was not do not trade up for him. It was just if this is your guy, then he has to be someone that you think can start day one.
I'm just saying.
Listen, it's a different position. The Steelers traded up for Troy Polamalu, and he didn't play his first year. People thought it was a wasted draft pick. He came in the next year. He was an All-Pro. He's going to be a Hall of Fame player.
But ultimately,
I know it's a different position, but the point still stands.
I'm just saying. Just as quarterback is just because it's such an important position. I mean, safety is too. Don't get me wrong, but we're talking about quarterback here. To me, it's just a whole different animal in terms of how you form your plan. Because other than that, if you don't have that quarterback, as we've talked about before, you're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter if you have a Troy Polamalu on defense.
Right. Let me ask you this, Catrillo. How many years have you been watching quarterbacks and doing enough to evaluate them? I forget. Was it 3-4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
How many of those guys do you think could have that you were talking about before the draft, saying this guy's a day one starter?
I probably have to say Andrew Luck.
Okay. Is that it?
Maybe.
I don't think you've never been high on these quarterbacks that much.
Andrew, I think maybe Mariota, but I just wasn't.
Andrew Luck and Jameis Winston, I think, are the.
Yeah, Jameis Winston would be another one.
No,
Yes.
Catrillo, you didn't like Winston, but you like Mariota more, and you weren't even all in on Mariota, so you can't even say Winston. I'm talking about your opinion. My point is
I thought Winston. I thought he had his issues with decision making.
But you didn't think he was a day one starter.
I thought I had that grade. I could be wrong.
I mean, I don't know if you ever said it either way. But
back to the tape.
My point is.
I understand your point. I've been very picky.
4 years, only one of those quarterbacks is worth taking.
Yeah, I've been very picky. I'll give you that.
Most of these guys are going to get a Luck. Congratulations, that means you had the first overall pick. But other than that, generally these guys can sit. It's not a bad thing.
I don't know. I just think it's a risk, and we'll see how it pays off, especially for Kansas City.
Of course, it's a risk. Of course, but you need to gamble. You got to roll the dice. You want to win.
All right, why don't we go to the best draft?
I will go with. I think Houston had a good draft. I really love what Tennessee did. I think Tennessee's going to be scary next year. I'll go with those two.
I'll say Baltimore. I think Ozzie just kills it every year. Marlon Humphrey, I think he's got talent in the first. Chris Wormley, Tim Williams is a high upside pick. Tyus Bowser. The whole AFC North did pretty good, but they drafted there. Siragusa, the tackle from A&M, has upside, so I think Ravens killed it.
Yeah, their draft is. Every time they took a pick, I'm like, no, not why. No, take someone else, not that guy. I like that guy too much. I thought the Indianapolis Colts had a really, really productive draft.
I agree.
They had Malik Hooker kind of fall into their laps, and then you finish you have Quincy Wilson, Terrell Basham, Zach Banner, Marlon Mack. So you have 5 guys right there that fill immediate needs, and they're big-time players. I get that Banner is a big dude, and he's not going to offer much in pass protection, but he's going to move people. Colts had problems moving people last year in the run game, so he's a guy that really helps out. I mean, I'm not sure about you guys, but when I looked through it, there were 15 teams I thought had good drafts this year.
I thought you became a Colts fan, Ian, by the way you were texting me this weekend about the Colts draft.
I was just really impressed. I just thought that they were, they were making such terrible picks for so many years. It's amazing what happens when you bring in a good GM. And he's like, all right, guys, we're just gonna go get good football players, guys. And they did, and I think they took their step in the right direction.
Yeah, Ballard did a great job first year.
Yeah, it was a very fun draft. This was a fun show. We thank again Russell Baxter for coming on with us earlier today, give us a lot of good insight from the 2017 NFL Draft. So be sure to check that out as well. And we'll again have this on YouTube. Don't forget our YouTube page is at Football Friday. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at FFPodcast1. Follow all of us on Twitter. Alex is at Alex_Kazora. Ian is at B104_Hunter. And I am now at M_Catrillo on Twitter. So make sure you give us all a follow for the latest NFL news, notes, and opinions. But most importantly, YouTube at Football Friday, at FF Podcast 1, following the show. On Twitter, again, our thanks to Russell Baxter. That's going to do it for this edition of the Football Friday podcast. For Ian Hunter and Alex Kazora, I'm Matt Catrillo. We'll talk to you next time.